This is Common Sense Radio. Straightforward and no excuses.
All right. Come on now.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Call me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
What I said was perfectly right and spot on accurate.
Boy's got a mouth like a cannon, always shooting it all.
Stop.
Got it
Yeah, stop. I mean, you're way off script.
Got it in me. Gonna quit until it all comes out.
Hey, boy!
Been a long education.
Yeah, it's not cynical. It's common sense.
Pay attention to me when I'm talking to you.
I'm gonna rock the nation. Rock the nation.
Genuine, accountable, and raw. Here is Steve Gruber.
Hey, it's Monday. Thanks for tuning in to the Steve Gruber Show. So many challenges ahead. So many things to deal with, politically speaking, and going into 2016. We'll be your voice here for 2016. A couple of announcements coming up here in the next, a couple of weeks. Some new affiliates, so you'll be able to find us in more places. Places that you already find us, like WFNT in Flint, WMKT in Petoskey, different places you can find us. So we appreciate your support all over the state. If you want to find out more, go to stevegruber.com. You can also take us around on Radio Pup, free app for your smartphone, and keep in tune. But here's one of the main challenges, and it's not just in this election year. It's a mindset challenge. It really is. It's a mindset challenge because there are those out there, and I've said this to you before. I have a young son, and I worry about my daughters, but my son, I worry about all of the things that are being aimed at boys in this country these days. Boys being boys, that's almost akin to, the war on women. By being a man, just by the sole act of being a man, you're committing the war on women. I pulled some of this information from a website. This is written by Mr. Brownell. Parts of this, anyhow. Here's a progressive by the name of Zach Stafford from The Guardian. You've read from The Guardian in the past. Has decided to give the finger to masculine men everywhere with his article. It's time to do away with the concept of manhood altogether. The concept of being a man, he would like to get rid of altogether. Here's his, I guess this would be his main argument. Men are pretty terrible people. They commit significantly more violent crimes, robberies, and assaults each year than women do, according to the Department of Justice. They are more likely to show anger in the workplace and be rewarded for it, while women are affected negatively for the same behavior. They even take up too much space on public transportation when manspreading. I don't know what that means exactly. But apparently manspreading is a concern on public transportation. I could keep going. By the way, if he was a real man, he'd probably have a car, or more accurately, a pickup truck. Men probably dominate all these terrible statistics because now and throughout history, they have dominated the world, but that doesn't give them a pass. They are still to blame, even if they don't know better. And it's high time their dominant position, their entitled ignorance, was questioned and dismantled. In fact, I think Zach here, it's kind of like the argument to save the planet, people have to go away. Zach's argument is that men are terrible people, so testicles should apparently go away. Hormones and testicles are not hate groups. Just so everybody's clear on that. Testosterone is not an elixir for hatred. It's what we call a hormone for basic science people out there. He goes off on a self-hating tangent for the rest of that article, but you get the picture, so let's take this and look a little closer. When Zach says men are pretty terrible people, you take that in, and it's a broad and general assumption. That's to say that, to group anybody together like that. To say that all Muslims are terrorists or all black people are in a gang would be the same to say that all men are pretty terrible people. And it's interesting, the self-loathing that Zach gets. Showing his obvious disdain, his man-hating. The men commit significantly more violent crime. Yeah, there's some truth to that. But infanticide is conducted solely by women. Solely. And in terms of aggression and temper in the workplace, this is incredible pseudoscience. There's no, basis for that. Throughout history, they've dominated the world, but that doesn't give them a pass. They're still to blame, even if they don't know better. That's the same logic behind white guilt. Where because a white person, I'm not even related to anyone who owned a black slave. I've never owned, anybody, frankly. I somehow inherit that racism card anyway because I'm too white. Why not say that all Muslims are conquest-hungry totalitarians? Because history has shown that. Saudi Arabia is still a screwed-up country, but how do you explain the people that have come here and become capitalists from those countries? This whole attack on men in general is what has me fearful for my son. Boys are aggressive. Boys get thrown out of school for kissing a girl on the playground, in kindergarten, for eating a Pop-Tart into the shape of a pistol like he saw in a cartoon, a Bugs Bunny cartoon that I encourage them to watch because I think it's a hell of a lot safer than anything else I can show them on TV these days. Because the liberals, they want to show you real gun violence on TV and then condemn you for reenacting the scenes they create. I'm concerned for my son for this alleged culture of rape, which we all know doesn't exist, at least not to the extent that people at places like the discredited Rolling Stone magazine would like you to believe. It's just not true. I gave you the statistics. 17 sexual assaults reported out of 43,000 students at the University of Michigan last year. 17. Does that sound, those are the reported ones? Doesn't sound like a culture of rape to me. It seems that there's this movement to medicate children, to give kids drugs if they don't sit up straight in school all the time, to control what they eat, to control how they behave. We keep them locked up in school all day because you don't want them to go out and run around too much because they might get hurt or something. But I fear for my son because the war is not on women, but quite the opposite. This bogus war on women has been turned around to focus their attacks on men, real men. You see, because real men that roll up their sleeves and get dirty and go to work every day are seen as a threat. Men that get dirt under their fingernails and, have testosterone coursing through their veins, they are a threat. Well, real men are making a comeback, I can assure you. And it's time to push back. It's time to stand up, America, in defense of real men. By the way, I'll be hunting this weekend with my wife because we do that together. And we understand the difference between men and women, as should you. It's the Steve Gruber Show on a Monday.
Delivering Michigan's common sense with a big dose of truth and honesty.
On the road again. Just can't wait to get on the road again.
It's Monday. Welcome to it. The work week underway. Time for you to contribute to this big machine. Come on, there's a lot of folks that don't want to go to work today. They're counting on you. In Lansing, I thought there was a deal. Finally working its way through. 3.3 cents on a gallon of gasoline. 40% increases the birthday tax, if you will, on registration fees and so forth. And then $600 million from the general fund. But off the rails it went once again. And now Nolan Finley, the editor of the Detroit News op-ed section, says, the governor might need to start breaking legs to make it happen. Nolan Finley, welcome back to the program.
Thanks, Steve. Good to be with you.
Yeah. Okay, so here we are again. And Alex just said in the break, he goes, in Back to the Future, where it said, where we're going, we don't need roads. Were they going to Michigan, is what Alex
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
And you wonder, because here we are once again, with a deal that looked like it was going to happen, and suddenly it's back in the ditch.
Yeah, I think it's incredible. I mean, last Tuesday when they went into session, everybody thought they were going to come out with a deal at last. And they get in there, and this group objected to the fuel tax hike, and this group objected to the registration hike, and they went back and forth all week actually, and got nothing done. And here we are in November now, and still looking for an answer to this problem. It's time to get this done. If it's going to happen, the governor's going to have to get in there and bang some heads together and use the powers he does have and the influence he does have to bring people around.
Well, I have to ask you, Nolan. I mean, how much pull does he have in there? He seems like he's medium. I don't think he's got a tremendous amount of sway, does he?
No, and not as much as he should have.
No.
But he still does hold the pen. And I wouldn't sign another bill or allow any other business to proceed, or allow these folks to go home again until he gets a road deal.
And so what's that going to take? I mean, here you are looking at this. Okay, so the complaints about the increase in taxes, the complaint that it wouldn't start to kick in 2018, a lot of it until 2021. Those are legitimate complaints, are they not?
Well, I mean, this isn't the greatest deal in the world, I'll tell you. What should have happened from the very beginning, when this process began in earnest a year ago, is he should have put a straight gas tax on the table and paid for it the way we always pay for roads, and kept it clean. You recall, it hasn't been just a little over a year ago, we were paying $3.50 to $4 a gallon for gasoline. And when that price plunged down to $2, it was the opportune time to put a 10, 15, 20 cent hike in the gas tax, whatever it took. And people still would have been below the long-term average on gas prices. Today, you could do that. We would still be well below what we had become accustomed to paying. And straight gas tax still the cleanest and most efficient way to do this.
And yet, the governor, you're right about the governor. I mean, here's my impression is, since his reelection, I mean, he's kind of drifted to the back. He's not on the front page of the paper every day. He's not leading the newscast every day. He's not out there in front of people every day. What is his message? What is his goal? What is his plan?
Well, I mean, he's still trying to get some big things done. He was out a couple of weeks ago with the Detroit education proposal, the school plan. But I think he's going to have to get more aggressive with his own legislature. Remember, these are all Republicans who control this thing, and I think he's just going to have to learn to exert the power he does have in a more forceful way.
On the other side of it, I think that it's, in my opinion, it's safe to say the Democrats would be just as happy if the roads were little more than dust come November of 2018. If this plan continues to be, a mess and they continue to have problems. I mean, the longer it plays out, the more benefit at least the Democrats think they get. And I honestly, I can't disagree with them.
Yeah, I mean, they've been useless in this whole process. They've been holding their votes hostage to big spending programs, new spending on their pet projects. Can't afford to do that here. We got to pass a clean road bill. So they've been useless in this process. And meanwhile, you've got the labor unions out there with Democratic support pushing a hike in the corporate income tax, $1 billion hike in the corporate income tax to use to fund roads. Well, going back to your little clip, you wouldn't need roads in Michigan because it would be a ghost state if that happened.
Well, yeah. So here are the things that are lining up for 2016. We have no road deal, which doesn't attract business here. We've got both DTE and consumers telling me there could be, some hiccups in the electrical grid. That's not going to bring business here. Our tax structure isn't, any more attractive than anybody. I mean, what is the reason for any business to come set up shop right here in Michigan today? What would be the incentive to come here?
Well, I mean, over the last few years, we fixed a lot of things. Certainly, we've made the tax climate much friendlier for business investment. We passed right to work, which took the whole fear of unionization off the table. I think we've created a very solid business climate. The last thing we want to do is take a step backward on that. Jobs are being created here again. Growth is happening. And, first thing Democrats want to do is put the shackles back on, to return to the policies that killed jobs and killed investment for a solid decade here in Michigan.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes they just, you wonder if in the day and age of the smartphone, if anybody can still read. I'm glad that people can still read your columns, Nolan, but I wonder how many, don't read it that really, really should. I'll give you 10 seconds for the last word.
Well, I mean, we've got to get this done this week, and these guys have been fooling around. They're going to kill their own selves if they allow this to linger into the election year and take the blame for the bad roads. I mean, they've got an incentive to get this done, and they should do it. And the governor needs to get in there and start calling in some favors.
It's time to get it done. Nolan Finley, I believe you're right. I guess we'll just have to see what happens, and we'll talk very soon, my friend.
Thanks, Steve.
We have Nolan Finley, everybody, from the Detroit News here on a Monday edition of the Steve Gruber Show.
Genuine Michigan common sense on display every day.
All right, it's Monday on the Steve Gruber Show. Greatly appreciate your support. New affiliates report coming up here shortly. So we look forward to that. WJIM, WJRW, two of our cornerstones, but more to join the friends and family of the Steve Gruber Show. We appreciate your support making that all possible. So here's my question to you. Are you a Jeb Bush supporter? Are you a Jeb Bush supporter? Would you accept Jeb Bush as your candidate? Bill Schuette, of course, a big Jeb Bush supporter, the Attorney General here in Michigan. But Bush is taking a lot of heat right now. His poll numbers are not good. His exchange with Marco Rubio during the debate, not good. When he challenged Marco Rubio on his number of absences from the U.S. Senate. And Marco Rubio coming back strong, saying basically, the only reason you're doing this is because somebody told you it would be a good idea. And basically, it looked bad. Jeb was on Meet the Press yesterday with Chuck Todd. And Chuck Todd asked Jeb Bush and General McChrystal's favorite questions. What would someone who doesn't like you say about you? Here's what was said. Jeb Bush was on Meet the Press, yeah. All right. We don't have that one at the moment. I apologize. Meanwhile, Paul Ryan stepping up. Paul Ryan stepping up to take the gavel for the Republican Party. And he wants to, he was asked, he was pretty much everywhere yesterday. And everything that went on with John Boehner and so forth, people are asking, did it damage the Republican Party? Here's what he said.
I think what we just experienced in the last couple of weeks was what was necessary to unify our conference, to unify our party. There are basically four things I think we need to do. Number one, get the House working like it was intended to work by the founders. Number two, we need to seek common ground. We need to find common ground where we can find it to advance the nation's interests, and we can do so without compromising our principles. Number three, I think it's incredibly important that we serve as an effective opposition party, a check on the administration's power. But that leads me to the most important point, number four. We've got to be a bold alternative party, a proposition party. We don't like the direction the country is headed, so we owe it to the people of this nation how we would do things differently, and that's what we have to do in 2016.
It makes me reflect on Jeb Bush there a moment ago. Things are so bad for Jeb Bush, he can't even make it on time for this program. And I'm serious. His campaign's in deep trouble. I don't know if I'll go so far as to say it's a death watch. That's what the mainstream media keeps saying, the death watch of the Jeb Bush campaign. But there are serious problems for sure. His money is drying up, support drying up, and his campaign debate performances have been lackluster at best. I think that's being polite. And Paul Ryan saying, part of the problem with the Republican Party, he said this yesterday, comes down to a lack of vision. Clip 2.
I think what we haven't done is offer a vision. We have not shown not only ourselves, but the nation, what is the horizon we're shooting for? What are the big ideas that we're going to champion? That's unifying. That's what we should rally around. So that, to me, means we should put aside the timid nature of not taking risks on policy and show people why we should be trusted to lead in this nation to get us to a better day.
And the last question that Paul Ryan was asked yesterday, and I think this is telling and important. He was asked about helping communities. He's talked about that in the past. He's from a small town in Wisconsin. He's been asked about helping communities, how he can do more for people. And he was asked, how would you do that in this new position? Clip 4.
And I'm redesigning this job. I don't think it can work going forward like it's worked in the past. I can't pick up where John left off. It has to be done differently. And my colleagues agree with that. I think that's one of the reasons why I was elected Speaker. And so I do believe that means we have to be bold. We have to show who we are, what we believe. And when you're asking me about communities, I spent a great deal of time and thought about this. I think big government displaces what we call civil society. Big government makes it harder for communities to come together and heal problems. And so that, to me, is an incredibly important dialogue we're going to have in this country, which is, how do we attack the root causes of poverty? How do we deal with reintegrating displaced communities so that people can build better lives for themselves?
And how do they build better lives for themselves? That's a big key. And we're going to see if Paul Ryan can actually set the tone. We're going to see if Paul Ryan can actually set the tone for where this goes for the rest of Barack Obama's tenure in the White House. We're going to see where this goes into 2017 and 18. Paul Ryan never thought he would be the Speaker of the House, of course. He never saw that coming. We'll be right back on the Steve Gruber Show.